Hey folks, welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to move forward and use our template for a creation policy to create a CloudFormation stack. Now, as the description states, we're going to create a classic load balancer, an auto-scaling group, and bootstrap 3 instances with a creation policy attribute. Now, each time an instance is created, it should send a success signal back to our stack, and ultimately the creation policy count will be satisfied, and then the stack creation can complete. Now, we saw a timeout in the wait conditions lesson, but I fully expect this stack creation to complete successfully. Now, in the last lesson, we focused on the creation policy parts of this template. Now we'll discuss the whole template. So we start with parameters, and when we go to build our stack, these are the inputs that we're going to be asked to select. So instance type, the default is T2 small, and we will see a drop down with 4 values. And then we have to reference an existing key pair. So if you're following along, you can either reference an existing key pair or create a new one before starting. And then the SSH location. So this is the IP address range that can be used to SSH to the EC2 instances. The default is going to be all zeros. I'll just leave it that way. This stack's lifespan is going to be very short. All right, and then we have mappings. And note that this corresponds to the 4 instance types that we have available to select. And then we have a mapping for our AWS region. So again, if you're following along, just remember to be in US East 1 region. And I demonstrated in the wait conditions lesson that if you're in the wrong region, your AMI ID will be incorrect. All right, and then we get to the meat of the template, the resources. And we're going to create an auto-scaling group called web server group. Note that we specify availability zones using function getAZs. We use ref to get a launch configuration, which we talked about a little bit in the last lesson. Of course, a min-max size for our auto-scaling group. And note, we're referencing an elastic load balancer, which we'll discuss shortly, but our auto-scaling group will be fronted by an elastic load balancer. And then there's our creation policy, which we talked about. Key point is that our creation policy is looking for 3 success signals. So it's basically looking for success from 3 created instances in our auto-scaling group. All right, that brings us to the launch configuration. And we talked a bit about this in the last lesson. The key points are that the launch configuration is providing instructions for CFN init. CFN init will reference our launch configuration and retrieve these instructions. And we have an upcoming lesson on helper scripts, so there will be a bit more detail on this part of our template. Key part of this is that we are creating an index HTML for our web application. And then we have properties, and this information is for the launch configuration. So the launch configuration will know how to provision our instances. Key name, this is our key pair. Image ID, security groups, instance type, and then there is our user data. So of course, this is where we bootstrap our instances. We do an update on AWS CFN Bootstrap, provision our instances, and signal success or failure. Now remember, we talked about this in the last lesson, but our CFN signal is grabbing the last exit code for the work done by CFN init. And an exit code of a 0 is a success. Non-zero, we ran into some kind of a problem, some kind of an error, and the stack will be rolled back. We're launching 3 instances. This is going to occur 3 times. And as specified by our count of 3, we need 3 success signals back from CFN signal. If we get those 3 success signals, stack creation will again proceed. All right, so let's assume that everything went well. We have 3 instances. Everything was a success. We go ahead and create our load balancer, perform our health checks, security group, and very importantly, our output will be a URL containing the DNS name of our Elastic Load Balancer. So with this output, we can browse to our load balancer and verify a successful installation. Okay, so I'm going to copy this template and I'm going to switch over to the AWS Management Console. Okay, so let's go over to CloudFormation and let's click on Design Template. And let's plug in our template. Make sure that we go to the Template tab. Always like to validate first. And let's create our stack. Okay, so we can click Next. And let's call this Creation Policy Demo. Instance type, I'll just keep it T2 small, but as expected, there are 4 choices. Need to select an existing key pair. And our SSH location, we could limit this to specific IP addresses. But this stack is going to be short-lived, so I'll just keep the default. Click Next. I can next through Options and Create. Do a refresh, and I can view my progress in the Events tab. Now, what we're hoping to see is some success signals from CFN signal. All right, let's check our progress. Load balancer created, security group, launch configuration, and now our autoscaling group is being created. All right, looks like we have some good news. We have create complete. Let's dig into our events a little bit more. Okay, as expected, we received 3 success signals, and these are the signals from CFN signal, indicating that our 3 EC2 instances in our autoscaling group have been launched and, just as importantly, provisioned with our software. So we can verify this. Let's go to our outputs. All right, this is the URL for our Elastic Load Balancer. Browsing here successfully will verify that our EC2 instances are ready, they're healthy, and that our Elastic Load Balancer is serving traffic to them. Let's browse to our load balancer, and there we go. So we've successfully used creation policies to provision 3 web servers. And with that, we have completed this lesson. Go ahead and mark this lesson complete, and let's move on to the next.